Shaq O'Neal, one of the most admired athletes in NBA, quietly walked into a luxury car dealership. To him, it was just another day. But what was about to happen would change everything, and when the truth about him came to light, the consequences would be more than surprising. They would be unforgettable. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. It was a typical morning in Los Angeles with a blue sky stretching like an invitation for something special. The city was alive with energy, people rushing to work, tourists snapping photos, and the hum of traffic filling the air. In the middle of all this, one man stood out, not just because of his size, but because of his presence. Shaq O'Neal, the legendary NBA star, was walking down the street, his towering figure impossible to miss. Shaq was dressed casually, wearing an oversized hoodie and a pair of sneakers. Despite his fame, he looked relaxed and approachable, like someone you could strike up a conversation with at a coffee shop. He had a big smile on his face, the kind that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. He was on a mission today, but not the kind you'd expect from a celebrity. Shaq wasn't here to film a movie or attend a fancy event. He was here for something much more personal. He stopped in front of a luxury car dealership. The building was sleek and modern, with shiny cars displayed behind floor-to-ceiling glass windows. The sign above the entrance read, "Elite Motors," and it was clear this was a place for the wealthy. Shaq adjusted his hoodie and walked in, his sneakers squeaking slightly on the polished floor. Inside, the dealership was like a palace for cars. Gleaming vehicles of every color and style were arranged perfectly, their surfaces reflecting the bright lights above. Salesmen in tailored suits moved around talking to well-dressed customers. The air smelled like leather and new car interiors. Shaq looked around, his eyes scanning the room. He wasn't here to buy just any car. He was looking for something special, a rare car he could restore and use to support one of his charity initiatives. Shaq had always been passionate about giving back. Over the years, he had supported countless causes, from education to disaster relief. This time, he wanted to do something different. He had an idea to restore a classic car and auction it off, with all the proceeds going to a program that taught kids the importance of respect and kindness. It was a project close to his heart, and he was excited to get started. As he walked further into the dealership, he noticed the way people looked at him. Some recognized him immediately, their eyes widening in surprise. Others glanced at his casual outfit and seemed to dismiss him. Shaq didn't mind. He was used to it. Over the years, he had learned that people often judged him based on his appearance, his size, his clothes, his fame. But Shaq had a way of disarming people with his humor and kindness. He believed that everyone deserved respect, no matter who they were or what they looked like. He approached a salesman who was standing near a sleek black sports car. The man was in his 30s, wearing a perfectly fitted suit and a polished smile. He looked Shaq up and down, his expression shifting slightly when he saw the hoodie and sneakers. "Can I help you?" the salesman asked, his tone polite but distant. "Yeah, I'm looking for something specific," Shaq said, his deep voice warm and friendly. "I heard you might have a 1967 Shelby GT 500 in the back. Is that true?" The salesman raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised that Shaq knew about such a rare car. But instead of answering, he gave Shaq another once-over, his eyes lingering on the hoodie. "That car is quite expensive," the salesman said slowly, as if he doubted Shaq could afford it. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" Shaq chuckled, not offended. "Oh, I'm sure," he said. "I've got an NBA-sized wallet. Don't worry about that." The salesman didn't laugh. Instead, he gave Shaq a cold, condescending smile. "I'm afraid that car isn't available for just anyone to see," he said. "Maybe you'd like to look at something more within your budget." Shaq's smile didn't falter, but there was a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. He had hoped for a different reaction, but he wasn't surprised. He had faced this kind of attitude before. Still, he wasn't going to let it ruin his day. "All right, man," Shaq said, still cheerful. "Thanks anyway." The salesman nodded curtly and walked away, leaving Shaq standing alone in the middle of the dealership. Shaq took a deep breath and looked around. He wasn't going to give up that easily. He knew the car was here somewhere, and he was determined to find it. But first, he needed to deal with the man who had just dismissed him so rudely. Shaq's eyes landed on a door at the back of the dealership, labeled Manager's Office. He smiled to himself. This was going to be interesting. The dealership was a world of luxury, a place where money talked and appearances mattered. The floors were so shiny you could see your reflection, and the cars were arranged like pieces of art. Each vehicle had a price tag that could make your head spin, and the salesman moved with the confidence of people who were used to dealing with the wealthy. Shaq stood out like a sore thumb. His casual outfit, oversized hoodie, sneakers, and a relaxed demeanor was a stark contrast to the tailored suits and polished shoes around him. But Shaq didn't care. He was here for a reason, and he wasn't going to let anyone's judgment stop him. He walked up to a salesman who was standing near a sleek black sports car. The man was in his 30s, with perfectly styled hair and a suit that looked like it had been custom made. He had a polished smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Can I help you?" the salesman asked, his tone polite but distant. "Yeah, I'm looking for something specific," Shaq said, his deep voice warm and friendly. "I heard you might have a 1967 Shelby GT 500 in the back. Is that true?" The salesman raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised that Shaq knew about such a rare car. But instead of answering, he gave Shaq another once-over, his eyes lingering on the hoodie. "That car is quite expensive," the salesman said slowly, as if he doubted Shaq could afford it. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" Shaq chuckled, not offended. "Oh, I'm sure," he said. "I've got an NBA-sized wallet. Don't worry about that." The salesman didn't laugh. Instead, he gave Shaq a cold, condescending smile. "I'm afraid that car isn't available for just anyone to see," he said. "Maybe you'd like to look at something more within your budget." Shaq's smile didn't falter, but there was a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. He had hoped for a different reaction, but he wasn't surprised. He had faced this kind of attitude before. Still, he wasn't going to let it ruin his day. "All right, man," Shaq said, still cheerful. "Thanks anyway." The salesman nodded curtly and walked away, leaving Shaq standing alone in the middle of the dealership. Shaq took a deep breath and looked around. He wasn't going to give up that easily. He knew the car was here somewhere, and he was determined to find it. But first, he needed to deal with the man who had just dismissed him so rudely. Shaq's eyes landed on a door at the back of the dealership, labeled Manager's Office. He smiled to himself. This was going to be interesting. Shaq walked confidently toward the manager's office, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. He knocked on the door, and a voice from inside called, "Come in!" The office was just as luxurious as the rest of the dealership. The walls were lined with framed photos of expensive cars, and a large desk sat in the center of the room. Behind the desk was a man in his 40s with slicked-back hair and a suit that screamed money. His name tag read, Richard. Richard looked up as Shaq entered, his expression shifting from curiosity to annoyance. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Yeah, I hope so," Shaq said, still smiling. "I'm looking for a 1967 Shelby GT 500. I heard you might have one here." Richard leaned back in his chair, studying Shaq with a critical eye. That car is very rare, he said, slowly. And very expensive. Are you sure you're in the right place? Shaq chuckled. Man, I get that a lot. But yeah, I'm sure. I've got the money, and I'm ready to buy. Richard didn't look convinced. He stood up, his eyes narrowing as he walked around the desk. Listen, I don't know who you are or what you're trying to pull, but we don't have time for games here. That car is for serious buyers only. Shaq's smile faded slightly, but he kept his tone light. I'm serious, man. I'm Shaquille O'Neal. Maybe you've heard of me? Richard snorted. Yeah, right. And I'm Michael Jordan. Look, buddy, I don't have time for this. If you're not here to buy a car, then you need to leave. Shaq's patience was wearing thin, but he tried to keep his cool. I am here to buy a car, he said firmly, and I'd appreciate it if you'd show me the Shelby. Richard's face turned red with anger. You think you can just walk in here and demand to see our most expensive car? Who do you think you are? Shaq took a step closer, his towering figure looming over Richard. I told you who I am, he said, his voice calm but commanding. And I'm not demanding anything, I'm asking politely. Richard tried to shove Shaq aside, but it was like pushing a brick wall. Shaq didn't flinch. Instead, he gently moved Richard back, his massive hand resting on the man's shoulder. You need to calm down, Shaq said, his voice steady. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to see the car. Richard's face was a mix of anger and fear. He stumbled back, his bravado crumbling under Shaq's calm but imposing presence. Get out of my office, he spat. Now. Shaq sighed, realizing this was going nowhere. He turned and walked out of the office, leaving Richard fuming behind him. As Shaq walked out of Richard's office, the dealership fell into an uneasy silence. Employees and customers alike had witnessed the confrontation, and the tension in the air was palpable. Shaq's towering figure moved through the showroom with a calm, steady presence, his face unreadable. He didn't look angry or upset, just thoughtful, as if he were processing what had just happened. When he reached the entrance, he paused and turned to face the room. His deep, resonant voice broke the silence. Man, you're judging the wrong book by its cover, he said, his tone firm but not unkind. Respect is for everyone. You should try it sometime. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Shaq's message was clear. It didn't matter who you were or what you looked like. Everyone deserved to be treated with dignity. He gave a small nod as if to emphasize his point, then turned and walked out the door. As he stepped into the bright Los Angeles sunlight, Shaq took a deep breath. He wasn't angry, just disappointed. He had hoped for a different outcome, but he knew this wasn't the end. Shaq had a way of turning negative experiences into something positive, and he was already thinking about how he could use this situation to spread a message of respect and kindness. What Shaq didn't know was that a young employee had secretly recorded the entire exchange on their phone. The video was about to go viral, and Shaq's calm and composed response would inspire millions around the world. The video hit social media like a storm. It was posted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and within hours, it had millions of views. The comment section was flooded with reactions. People praised Shaq for his restraint and humility, while calling out Richard's arrogance and prejudice. The video showed Shaq's calm demeanor and his witty but impactful remarks. It also highlighted Richard's unprofessional behavior, from his dismissive attitude to his attempt to physically push Shaq. The contrast between the two men was striking, and it didn't take long for the internet to take sides. Hashtags like "Respect wins" and "Richie Shaq says" respect started trending, with people sharing their own stories of being judged or mistreated. The video sparked a larger conversation about respect and equality, both in business and everyday life. The backlash against the dealership was swift and intense, Former customers and employees came forward with their own negative experiences, further damaging the dealership's reputation. Social media was flooded with calls for boycotts, and the dealership's phone lines were jammed with angry calls. Richard, the manager, became the face of the controversy. His name and face were everywhere, and he was vilified for his behavior. The dealership's owners were forced to issue a public apology, but it did little to quell the outrage. Shaq, meanwhile, stayed quiet. He didn't make any public statements or give interviews. He let the video speak for itself, knowing that his actions had already made a powerful statement. Days passed, and the video continued to spread. Shaq watched as the world reacted, amazed by the impact it had. He received countless messages from people thanking him for standing up for respect and kindness. Many shared their own stories of being judged or mistreated, and how Shaq's actions had inspired them to stand up for themselves. Shaq knew he had to respond. He couldn't let this moment pass without using it to spread a positive message. He decided to make a statement, not to defend himself, but to encourage others to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance or status. He posted a simple message on his social media accounts: "Respect is for everyone. Let's make the world a kinder place." Respect wins. The response was overwhelming. Millions of people liked and shared his post, and the hashtag number #RespectWins continued to trend. Shaq's message resonated with people from all walks of life, and it sparked a global movement promoting respect and kindness. Shaq knew this was just the beginning. He had a bigger plan in mind, and he was ready to take the next step. A week after the video went viral, Shaq returned to the dealership. The atmosphere was completely different. The once bustling showroom was nearly empty, and the employees looked nervous. Richard, the manager, was nowhere to be seen. Shaq walked in, his presence commanding attention. The employees recognized him immediately, and their expressions were a mix of awe and fear. They had seen the video, and they knew what had happened. Richard emerged from the back office, his face pale and his demeanor shaken. He approached Shaq, his hands trembling slightly. "Mr. O'Neill," Richard began, his voice shaky. I want to apologize for my behavior. I was completely out of line, and I'm deeply sorry." Shaq listened patiently, his expression calm. "I appreciate the apology," he said. "But it's not just about me. It's about how you treat everyone. Respect is for everyone, not just people who look a certain way or have a certain amount of money." Richard nodded, his face red with shame. "I understand," he said. "I've learned my lesson, and I'm committed to doing better." Shaq gave a small nod. "I hope so," he said. "But I'm not here to buy a car. I'm here to deliver a message." He turned to the employees and customers who had gathered around. "Treat everyone with respect," he said, his voice strong and clear. "It doesn't matter what they look like or where they come from. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and kindness." The room was silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Shaq gave a small smile, then turned and walked out, leaving the dealership in stunned silence. Shaq didn't stop there. He knew there were other dealerships out there, ones that valued their customers and treated everyone with respect. He decided to visit a smaller, family-run dealership that had a reputation for excellent customer service. The moment he walked in, he was greeted with warmth and enthusiasm. The staff recognized him immediately, but they treated him like any other customer. They listened to his needs, showed him the cars he was interested in, and treated him with the respect he deserved. Shaq found the car he was looking for, a beautiful 1967 Shelby GT 500. He bought it on the spot, and the staff was thrilled. They took a photo with him, and Shaq posted it on his social media with the caption, "Real MVPs treat everyone with respect. Love this place." The post went viral, and the dealership saw a huge increase in business. People wanted to support a place that valued respect and kindness, and Shaq's endorsement was the ultimate seal of approval. The fallout for the original dealership was swift and severe. The viral video had not only exposed Richard's unprofessional behavior, but also shed light on the toxic culture that had been festering within the dealership for years. Customers who had previously felt mistreated or disrespected began coming forward with their own stories, sharing them on social media and in reviews. The dealership's reputation, once a symbol of luxury and exclusivity, was now tarnished beyond repair. The dealership's owners, desperate to salvage what was left of their business, issued a public apology. They promised to retrain their staff, implement new policies to ensure respect and equality, and even offered discounts to customers as a gesture of goodwill. But the damage had already been done. The public's trust was shattered, and no amount of apologies or discounts could undo the harm that had been caused. Richard, the manager at the center of the controversy, was fired within days of the video going viral. His dismissal was met with widespread approval, but it did little to quell the outrage. Richard became a symbol of everything that was wrong with the dealership: arrogance, prejudice, and a complete lack of empathy. He tried to defend himself in interviews, claiming that he had been under pressure and that his actions had been misinterpreted, but no one was buying it. His career in the luxury car industry was effectively over. The dealership's sales plummeted. Potential customers, wary of being treated poorly, took their business elsewhere. Competitors capitalized on the situation, using the hashtag #RespectWins in their marketing campaigns to highlight their commitment to treating all customers with dignity. The once thriving dealership was now a ghost town, its showroom empty and its employees demoralized. The owners tried to rebrand, changing the name of the dealership and launching a new advertising campaign focused on inclusivity and respect. But the public wasn't fooled. The changes felt superficial, like a desperate attempt to save face, rather than a genuine effort to change. The dealership's struggles served as a cautionary tale for businesses everywhere. Arrogance and prejudice could destroy even the most successful enterprise. Meanwhile, Shaq's actions continued to inspire. His calm and composed response to Richard's rudeness had struck a chord with people around the world. The video of the incident became a rallying cry for those who had ever felt judged or mistreated because of their appearance, background, or social status. Shaq's message, that respect is for everyone, resonated deeply, sparking a global conversation about the importance of kindness and equality. Shaq's legacy was already well established long before the incident at the dealership. As one of the most dominant players in NBA history, he had achieved greatness on the basketball court, but it was his actions off the court that truly defined him. Shaq had always been known for his generosity, humility, and commitment to giving back. The incident at the dealership only reinforced what people already knew. Shaq was more than just a basketball legend. He was a role model. After the video went viral, Shaq decided to use the attention to further his charitable efforts. He had originally gone to the dealership to find a rare car that he could restore and auction off for charity. Now, with the world watching, he saw an opportunity to make an even bigger impact. He partnered with a smaller family-run dealership that had a reputation for excellent customer service and found the car he was looking for, a pristine 1967 Shelby GT 500. Shaq spent months restoring the car, pouring his heart and soul into the project. He documented the process on social media, sharing updates and behind-the-scenes glimpses with his followers. The restoration became a symbol of his commitment to turning something negative into something positive. When the car was finally ready, Shaq announced that it would be auctioned off, with all proceeds going to programs that promoted respect, inclusion, and kindness. The auction was a massive success. Bidders from around the world competed for the chance to own the rare car, and the final price far exceeded expectations. The money raised went to fund initiatives that taught children the importance of respect and empathy, provided resources for underserved communities, and supported organizations working to combat prejudice and discrimination. But Shaq's impact went beyond the money he raised. His actions inspired others to take a stand against injustice and to treat everyone with dignity and respect. The hashtag #RespectWins became a global movement, with people sharing stories of kindness and standing up for what was right. Shaq's message resonated with people from all walks of life, proving that one person's actions could make a difference. Shaq also used his platform to advocate for change in the business world. He spoke at conferences and events, urging companies to prioritize respect and inclusivity in their practices. He emphasized that treating customers and employees with dignity wasn't just the right thing to do, it was also good for business. Companies that embraced these values saw increased loyalty, higher employee morale, and greater success. Shaq's legacy was one of kindness, humility, and a commitment to making the world a better place. He had shown that true greatness wasn't just about achieving personal success. It was about using that success to uplift others. His actions at the dealership and the way he turned a negative experience into a force for good would be remembered for years to come. The incident at the dealership had far-reaching consequences, not just for Shaq and the dealership, but for society as a whole. It sparked a global conversation about respect, equality, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity. Shaq's calm and composed response to Richard's rudeness became a symbol of the power of kindness and the importance of standing up for what is right. Shaq's final words on the matter were simple but powerful. Being big isn't just about size, it's about having a big heart for people. Respect is for everyone. These words encapsulated everything Shaq stood for: his generosity, his humility, and his commitment to making the world a better place. They served as a reminder that true greatness isn't measured by wealth or fame, but by the impact we have on others. The story of Shaq and the dealership became a modern-day parable, a cautionary tale about the dangers of arrogance and prejudice, and a testament to the power of kindness and respect. It inspired countless people to reflect on their own actions and to strive to treat others with dignity and empathy. Shaq's legacy continued to grow long after the incident. He remained a beloved figure, not just for his achievements on the basketball court, but for his contributions off it. He used his platform to advocate for positive change, to uplift others, and to spread a message of kindness and respect. His actions reminded us all that no matter who we are or where we come from, we have the power to make a difference. In the end, the story wasn't just about Shaq or the dealership. It was about the values we choose to uphold and the kind of world we want to create. Shaq had shown us that respect is for everyone, and that kindness can change the world. And that, perhaps, was the greatest legacy of all. I hope you liked this story. Subscribe Storyboat for daily upcoming heartwarming stories like this. Also visit and check out other stories on Storyboat.